Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share insights on what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fumey, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the founder and CEO of BooXKeeping, Max Emma. Max, how are you today?
Hi, Frank. I'm great. Thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here.
It's great having you. So, Max, we haven't known each other a whole long time, but we met back in Springboard. Just happened to be at a round table together. You were sitting next to me, and lo and behold, I learned that you guys do the bookkeeping for a whole lot of my old company's franchisees, and we got chatting. I was looking forward to having you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you.
Max, you have a bookkeeping franchise, right? And company on location. But I would love the audience to hear the story that you shared with me on what led you to starting this company.
That's probably going to be more than just one podcast. So it's going to be one of your longest one, but hopefully you guys can edit it.
It's such a great story because your experience that you went through as an entrepreneur is what we all go through. And the difference is you did something about it in a very meaningful way by actually starting a business to help other entrepreneurs. So let's go back to your beginning on why you even created this with your story.
Sure. I mean, I have to give you a pre-story. So I came from the former Soviet Union 31 years ago, got my education in finance, got a job with the large corporation with Qualcomm, which was one of the largest in San Diego where I lived at the time. And I lasted there for about 4 years, realizing that the corporate world is not for me. I was always in line to kiss someone's butts. And by the time it was my turn, it was a different butt to kiss. And I guess I wasn't very good at it. And so I gave him a 2 weeks notice and joined a small family business, which was like one landscape maintenance route with 3 employees. And we were able to grow it to 96 employees and go into landscape construction. And it was a great journey. I learned a lot. And then we were growing like crazy until the recession started to hit. And they just stopped building tract homes, and we were doing a lot of landscaping for tract homes. Mm-hmm. But yet we were overcapitalized. We had a lot of trucks, we had a lot of equipment, and I was young and stupid and was growing so fast and did not pay attention to the numbers. And by the time I started paying attention to the numbers, it was already too late. And we just went all the way down. Like as fast as we went up, we went down even faster. So we lost pretty much everything, a lot of debt, no income. Me and my wife with the baby and one more on the way. And pretty much I remember the last money I had, I paid all of my employees and just hang a key on the barn. And that was it. So that was, pretty sad to say the least. Mm-hmm. But back then we realized if we knew our numbers, if we actually paid attention, if we had them, on time, we probably would not make these mistakes. The irony is that boss and my wife at a time, who actually is a co-founder of BooXKeeping, Elena Emma, we were both accountants in finance. So we definitely knew the numbers. We just did not have time to do it because we were so busy growing the company. And so we said, okay, we really need to get something going for the accounting world. And, we left it at that and started landscaping company again. And that time we were more successful. We actually grew it and then eventually sold it. But we needed the financials for the business, for our own business. And so what I did, I created a scope of work. And I went to get about 20 estimates in San Diego from 20 different people. And for exact same scope of work, the price that we got was anywhere from $200 to $2,000.
Oh,
for exactly same scope of work. And I knew something is definitely wrong. I mean, it can be off by 10%, 20, okay, 100%, but not such a big fork.
Right.
So we said, you know what? That's a sign. we definitely need to go and get this business going. And while having a landscaping business, we started bookkeeping.
Mm,
And at some point, we were running two businesses, getting bookkeeping off the ground and, running a successful landscaping business until, again, we sold it and concentrated 100% on bookkeeping. But, if it wouldn't be for the bankruptcy, we probably would never go back into accounting because I ran from it. When I left Qualcomm, I didn't think I'll ever go back into finance accounting in my life.
sure. And Max, most people don't recover either after having a business go under. And especially during the recession, they say, you know what, I'm just going to go get a job. Maybe running a business is not for me because you had a devastating loss. And you did the most common mistake, right, that most entrepreneurs make is that you end up running out of money because you're only managing the top line and not the bottom line. And for you and your wife to go back in and say, we're doing this all over again, and this time we're going to do it right, is incredible. That's an incredible inspiration to do that, and to do that during a tough economy as well. So you start bookkeeping now to provide a bookkeeping services for others at this point in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who are your clients at that point? And how did you start getting clients?
So it was just literally building relationships in San Diego market, going door to door, knocking every door, calling, meeting people, finding referral partners, doing networking. So just stuff that is described in the, old textbooks. That's exactly what I was doing while Elena was, breastfeeding the young baby.
Mhm.
And well, actually, no, I take it back. By then, he wasn't that young, so she probably wasn't breastfeeding him. But while she was doing the work out of the garage, and I was going around and getting the clients. So literally going door to door and doing just the local marketing and business development.
I love it. I love it. You're just grinding it out, making it happen. So is this around 2012 then when you first found bookkeeping? Because we go a number of years before you franchise. And I'm curious.
Yes, so 2011 when we got the idea, 2012 is when we got our first client and
Mhm.
actually made it happen. I mean, first we wanted to come up with a catchy name, and we were just playing with the words, and we're still arguing who said bookkeeping first. But it was literally, I remember we were just playing, how about this, how about that? And the word bookkeeping came up and we tried to trademark it, and
Mhm.
attorney said there is no way it will get trademarked, so you guys have to come up with a different name.
Oh, wow.
So that's another lesson that I learned. I'm like, don't trust the attorneys. And I said, you know what, you're still doing it. And he did it. We did not get any opposition
Right.
and from the government, and it got approved. If I listened to him, it probably would be called, something different, but I'm glad I didn't.
Right. Right. That's good. Well, going to an attorney is like going to a doctor. You get the advice and then you do with it what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. From 2012 to 2021, you're running your company owned location, so to speak. Then you franchise in 2021. What made you franchise the concept?
So while we were growing the company, I just by accident got into doing a bookkeeping for a franchise brand. Okay, just meeting a franchisor
Mm-hmm.
at the expo, getting introduced, and he said, "You know what? I might need bookkeeping for my franchisees." I'm like, franchisees, franchisors, what are those? I mean, obviously, I knew McDonald's, but as
Right.
a typical person, when you ask what is franchising, you say it's McDonald's.
Right.
And of course, now we all know that it's way more than that. And there are 3,000 registered franchisors in the United States. I think it's a number, something like that. And
Somewhere
then
between
new
3 and
ones.
4,000. Yeah, a whole
Yes,
lot.
and then the new ones coming in all the time. And so we started doing that and doing one brand at a time. And then I started enjoying being around franchisors and learning. And slowly but surely, we were doing bookkeeping for 5 brands, 7 brands, 10 brands. And all of a sudden, we have clients nationwide. It's not just the local bookkeeping company. We're still one office, San Diego only, but we now service people outside of the state, which was like very unusual. And please remember, this is pre-COVID time. I mean, Zoom wasn't there. It was still mostly the phone. We did some Skype, but it was a different world than it is now. So it
Right.
was kind of new. But then more and more we were hanging out at the IFA and meeting the franchisor, and I really enjoy being around these people. I learned franchising community is very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's smiling. Everybody's literally wants to help, which I absolutely love. Even when you see two competitors, they're sitting next to each other at the bar and discussing, sharing notes, even though
Mm-hmm.
they're two direct competitors selling similar franchises,
Mm-hmm.
and yet they're really good friends talking about it. So I said, you know what? I want to be one of them. How can I do that? And I do remember just literally writing a first version of a business plan on a napkin. That's like really was done like, okay, if we do franchising, boom, 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 that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, obviously, we developed a more formal business plan and, did way more research. And it took a while to get that done. But I do remember just it came to me being around other franchisors.
That's amazing. Well, we always say that franchising finds us, and franchising found you in its own different way, right? So now this is interesting because so the audience is clear. Not only is your company help doing the bookkeeping for franchisors, or I should say for franchisees of brands, but then you go ahead and launch your own franchise concept of BooXKeeping so that your franchisees then will do bookkeeping in their community or in their territory. And so why don't you share, first off, who are your franchisees? Who's your ideal franchise owner, and like what traits do they need to be successful? Do they need a bookkeeping background, or do they need to be CPAs? Who are they?
So they don't have to be accountants. They have to have some kind of, accounting knowledge. But if they're not accountants and they cannot do the work themselves, they need to embrace it and hire somebody who can.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2 weeks training, it's very intense training, but we're not going to be making somebody an accountant. Okay.
Right.
If someone never seen a financial statement in their life, it's going to be very hard for them to sell the financial statements to other people. By any means, I'm not an accountant. I have a finance background. So you don't want me to do your accounting because I'm going to suck at it. But I know enough, and coming from finance, and I was doing some corporate finance and accounting at Qualcomm, I know enough, so I'm able to talk about it. I know the difference between profit and loss and balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen many, many of those. But again, you don't want me to do debits and credits only because I've never done it in my life. Can I learn? Absolutely. Is that my strongest suit? Absolutely not. So I knew that I needed people who actually know how to do it to make this company successful. So my ideal franchisee, somebody who is like me, for example, who
Mm-hmm.
just like to sell, like to meet people, want to be around people. I mean, an extrovert. Just knowing, hey, I need somebody like Elena who's actually going to stay behind and do the work, in the office. And then, obviously we started hiring the employees, and, that's how the company scaled. By the way, as a franchisor, we do offer our franchisees employees as well. So if they want, we can provide staff. All they have to do just provide the clients and being rainmakers and being like quarterbacks between clients and the bookkeeping team. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to do bookkeeping themselves. They can be. Some of our franchisees have actually had bookkeeping businesses before. They were just getting the ceiling on how to take this business to the next level. And then they joined BooXKeeping family and, 6x their income in the first 5, 6 months, just because, we taught them how to get clients, how to price it, and so on and so forth. Speaking of CPAs, hopefully by the time this episode will air, we'll have a CPA firm who are franchisees of BooXKeeping, because we just sent the franchise agreement for signature late last night.
Excellent.
So they are a CPA firm and they're looking to buy a BooXKeeping franchise and have a firm that they're going to be outsourcing all their clients. So
Wow.
it's actually a good addition to a CPA firm as well.
Sure. The other thing that I love about the way you've set your franchise up is that you shared with me before we started that your company services 85 different franchise brands. So of those franchise brands, why don't you share some of the biggest names of you have your biggest clients' names? I just want to give the audience kind of a flair for what.
So first of all, we do not discriminate. They don't have to be big because they all start somewhere. We all start somewhere. Like we're doing bookkeeping for Fast Signs and for the entire Propelled brands family. We're doing it for Signorama and the entire United franchise group, which is about nine brands.
Mhm.
Sport Clips. So these are the national companies, big brands, but we also do it for some emerging ones that growing really fast. Like for example, one of the fastest growing right now, we do it for the game day men's health, and they probably added about 100 franchisees in the last 2 months.
Wow.
And when we started working with them, they had 5 or 7, and
Mhm.
now they have over 100. And the beauty for us is that it's mandatory for their franchisees to use bookkeeping. I mean, not all franchisors demand it.
Right.
Most of them do recommend it, but Game Day went to this different approach. They actually making it mandatory because we can provide a good price and good service, and we also national partner of Intuit, so all our clients get massive discounts on QuickBooks Online products for the life of a subscription. Okay, so they went with that, and so I do love emerging franchises because you have no idea how fast they're gonna take off.
And you have no idea yet, no matter how small or how big your company is, unit economics is the most important thing, right? We talk about it again and again. We talk about the conferences, we talk about the podcast, and your company provides exactly that service where as an emerging brand, I can get the numbers for my franchisees.
Absolutely. And you might have heard of I9 Sports, Frank, before.
Once or twice.
Yes. So, I mean, we met at the International Franchise Association Expo right before COVID. Took about a year for us to do something because obviously the COVID officially started 2 weeks after that IFA in Orlando. I remember that.
Mhm.
We're like, so what's now? But once they started working with us, we now probably service about 80 I9 franchisees, all over the United States. So again, you don't know how many clients you're gonna get out
Right.
of one franchise. So then it doesn't matter. Bookkeeping is bookkeeping. It doesn't matter if it's a, medical clinic or, a sport franchise.
Sure.
Debit is still on the left and credit is still on the right.
Right, right. And the other thing that I love about your brand that you share with me is that your franchisees have this protected territory, right? And in the territory, if any of those 85 brands that you take on from corporate that you acquire, you then share those franchisees that are in their territory that they can service. So you're really also a source of business for your franchisees.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they have a choice to take this as a client or not, because some of our franchisees, they're like, no, we want to go for bigger companies and become the outsource accounting department. And it's absolutely their right.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to go and service franchises, but they do have that as the lead source. And a lot of them are actually, enjoying it.
Why don't you tell me what was life first like for you as a franchisor? How did you find these first 5 franchisees in Florida, Texas, California? And what was it like when you first became a franchisor?
Well, the first thought that I got after we became a franchisor, like, why the hell did I do that? Because we did get we did get the approval literally one day before we went into lockdown. So we got an approval on March 16th of 2020.
Okay.
Okay. So even though I'm saying we started franchising in 2021, legally we started doing it in 2020, just nothing was done for the first year because
Okay.
I had to revamp my main business and change it and make sure that we can go with what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But so really for the first 12, 15 months, nothing was done. So that was the first thought. And then I was learning, I was talking to other franchisors, but where we found the first 5, different sources. So friends and family for the first one, somebody who actually was our employee number 1, then left, was doing something on her own, and then she just kept in touch. And
Mm-hmm.
once she found out of the opportunity, she's like, you know what? I was your employee number 1. Now I want to be a franchisee number 1. And so here we go. Then we found one through a broker. We found one through a podcast. We found one through organic source, and we found one through their franchisee of one of the brands that we do bookkeeping for. And then they just saw the advantage of adding BooXKeeping into portfolio of companies they own, because they have connection to other business owners. So really, I have one of each right now. That's why, in franchising, somebody told me that nothing works and
Mm.
everything works. So you have to pretty much just, try to do different things. There's, okay, we're only going to do brokers. So we're only going to do organic, or we're only going to do portals. So one of them was actually sold through a portal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you have to diversify your budget allocation for franchise development for sure.
Yep.
Yep, yep. What do you think it's going to take for BooXKeeping to be able to scale more quickly? Obviously, it's people heavy, right? There is a resource that you have to provide.
Yes, so it's actually getting it out there that the bookkeeping franchising exists, because that's not a most obvious franchise out there. Like when we did the expos, which the first year we did a lot of them,
Mhm.
and we're not very successful. So I can tell you, I have not sold a single franchise out of the expos, even though we did probably 10 of them. And I know it works for some brands, did not work for us,
Mhm.
because majority of the time people are like, really, bookkeeping? Oh, we had no idea you can franchise that, because this is not a pizza franchise where it's obvious, and then people like, okay, I want to have a pizza restaurant. I mean, here's what the equipment I need, here's what I need to do, and now I'm gonna go and decide between these 10 brands that are available in my market and
Right.
see which one I like the best. Again, this is a lot of it is like a blue ocean market.
Sure.
Majority of my competition is actually they are tax franchises that also offer bookkeeping, like an H&R Block, Liberty Tax. So they tax first, and then, oh, by the way, we're going to be offering bookkeeping. And funny enough, they started doing it last few years. Before, H&R Block did not offer bookkeeping. Okay,
Mm,
they just started doing it, I want to say 2, maybe 3 years ago.
right.
Okay, so we don't do any taxes, and the reason we don't do taxes, because we get majority of the referrals from CPAs, other CPAs. So why would I shoot myself in the foot? Again, this is my thinking. Obviously, H&R Block is super successful with thousands of units.
Right.
I would love to be, size of H&R Block, but yet for what we offer, I don't think that's the right model. We
Sure.
don't need class A office because it's all remote. It can be done from your home. It can be done from anywhere in the world, really.
And the fact is, you know who you are. You know your company's lane, right, to be in. And I think that I could picture you guys at, one of the conferences, or I should say at one of the expos, and I could see people being intimidated because they see it's bookkeeping and they might be intimidated. Well, I don't know anything about that. And they don't realize that their number one job is really getting clients that, like you said earlier, they don't have to do any of the bookkeeping. There's a resource there to do this for the service to be handled. And it's really about them getting out in the community.
So right now, it just, I'm working on getting the story out there, and then working on the PR campaign, and working in educating people. That's the biggest challenge that we've seen. And I think once we get through the first 15 franchises, it'll get way easier. I mean, now I see more and more interest, and we are starting national campaigns, and we reaching out to accountants, and we're reaching out to franchisees of other brands that might be interested in adding BooXKeeping into their portfolio, because again, they might have access to other potential clients. So that we're changing the marketing strategy. So I think 2024 is going to be a pretty big for us, because we are revamping a lot of different things that we're doing.
Nice. What about your team overall? So how many employees you have? It sounds like to me, from what you said earlier, they're kind of all over the world. And how big is the group?
So we have 23 employees right now, and yes, I have employees obviously in the United States. We have a physical office in Philippines. We have a physical office in Barcelona, Spain. Everybody in the US works remotely from their houses, but everybody outside of the US, they actually work out of the physical offices. Okay, so that's done to build the culture and to build the camaraderie and make sure that we have actually an organized business, and it's not just, like an outsourcing of bookkeeping to people all over the world. So that's definitely not our model.
Okay. So speaking of that, now let's kind of transition to I'm a franchisee. What does training look like for me?
So you would get 2 weeks full-time training, which is all done remotely, which is great. You don't have to fly anywhere. And that includes the business development. It includes the basic accounting. It includes networking, how to get clients, how to price clients. And then, of course, the software training. We do have our proprietary software called BooksDesk
Mm-hmm.
that is designed for accountants and bookkeepers. Right now, it's only available for bookkeeping employees and bookkeeping franchisees. We developed this software. We thought about taking it out to the market and offering to other companies, but we just don't have the muscle to push it, out. But it's a great resource for our own employees and franchisees. And then also we're training on QuickBooks, we train on Zero and some other softwares, Bill.com and so on and so forth. And then after the first 2 weeks, they get the ongoing operational training, they get ongoing business development training, and then they get 6 months of sales training with the live sales coach who's actually going to be teaching them how to sell. Because let's be honest, majority of accountants, well, majority of anybody don't know how to sell.
Right.
Okay. And that's the hardest part. It's just, you might have the best product, but if the world doesn't know about it,
Mm-hmm.
then, there is not much that is going to be happening. I believe the BooksKeeping is a great product. My job right now is make sure that the world knows about it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm working on right now. So they get 6 months of that. Also, Elena, who, is a co-founder of BooksKeeping, she's offering 1 year of executive coaching to everybody who becomes a franchisee. Elena is a PhD, she's a TEDx speaker, and she does consulting for some large national corporations. So she's actually working with all the franchisees for 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
making them better and getting them to the peak of their performance. And there is no charge for that. That's all included in our franchise fee because, hey, let's be honest, their success is our success.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. What's the investment range for the franchise?
So the investment range is 25,000 to 52,000. Our franchise fee is $30,000. However, if you are an existing accounting business like a CPA or a bookkeeping business, you only pay 20. And we also give 30% discount to veterans, active military spouses, and first responders.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. And Max, tell me about the territory size. I'm trying to get an idea of how big is big.
So territory is 500,000 people of population,
Mhm.
which is actually, pretty big area. So for example, like Bookkeeping Miami, the entire city of Miami and South Beach, Florida are taking. However, anything north of Miami is still available.
Mhm.
So, and that's probably another 2.5 million
Right.
people.
Right.
And but having said, even though they have a protected territory, and that's not going to be a Bookkeeping Miami too, if a franchisee in Miami has a cousin or friend in Boston and they refer the clients, they're more than welcome to take it because you go where the referral partner is. You just can't go and actively
Oh.
market in Boston area.
Okay.
But yet you do get a protected territory. And my thinking was when we organized it, I didn't want it to become ADP, which is a payroll company. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great company, but like I don't know, in San Diego, for example, probably has 20 reps, and they're stepping on each other's toes, and you get calls from this, ADP from different people. Hey, let's meet, let's meet. I'm like, well, we're already working with you guys. You probably should know that we already work with one of your reps. So I don't want bookkeeping to become that. That's why we kind of geographically protect territory, but
Mm-hmm.
yet we're not limiting where they can get the clients from, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what's your vision for the company overall?
So I know we can do it. I think we are getting there to learning how to do it. Um, my goal is to get to sell another 25 in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So get it to about 30 units and then probably another 25, 30 the following year. So I think once we get to 50 franchises, we can take a pause and see how we can get to the next level. But I don't have a idea of selling 1,000 units, but I definitely know that BooXKeeping has in it at least 100 franchises in the United States. I
Hmm.
mean, we don't have any plans going internationally. The only way we would go to Canada if somebody wants to buy like a master territory and develop it in the whole country. I would be interested in doing that, but I can tell you right now, I have zero desire to now start this concept, outside of the United States, because United States is a pretty big area for us to chew.
Sure. I
So
think that's really, really smart, to stay put, focus on the US because you have so much, green space still.
people don't realize bookkeeping is a $4.2 billion industry in the United States
Mm,
alone a year. So it's huge. Okay. So this is just, it's growing more after COVID. Right now, we get more clients who just want to close their accounting departments and just say, you know what? We want to outsource it. And they're saving money doing that. So we're not talking about once a month close. We have some clients that we work for on a daily basis. We pay the bill, we create the invoices. So we pretty much the extension of their company, just we don't happen to be inside of their office
sure.
and we're not doing it full time.
Right. What do you think is the biggest challenge for a franchisee besides the sales, right? We know that they have to get out from behind the desk. They need to get out there. In actually operating the business, what do you see as their biggest obstacle?
I think it's probably listening to an advice because they like, you know what, I know better and I want to do it my way. And
Mhm.
ultimately, they are allowed to do it their way. It's their business.
Sure.
But, I tell all the potential franchisees, yes, we're going to teach you how to do it and what to do. But most importantly, we're going to tell you about the mistakes we made.
That's
And,
great.
we definitely made quite a few mistakes that I probably would not probably I would not do it again, but you don't know what you don't know. So right now, when I see my franchisee is about to make this mistake, and I'm like, please don't do it. I mean, here's the reasons why. Let me tell you my story. And they're still doing it. I'm
Right.
like, God, I did tell them I did what I could. I mean, I wish them all the luck. I'm here if you need me, okay? But
Yeah.
don't come and say, well, you were right, because it's not about who is right, who is wrong. It's about, just the expertise. And that's what franchisors can provide to their franchisees, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there, a misconception of when a potential franchisee calls that they just don't understand really what their role is or something beyond that? What do you think are some of the
Well, so some of the franchisees, potential franchisees, that they want to do it part-time without putting any time. And yeah, absolutely, it can be a part-time business,
Okay.
but 20 hours a week, I consider part-time. If you
Mhm.
spend 0 hours a week, this is not part-time. This is zero time, okay? Because the business is not going to grow on itself. Just, buying a territory and waiting for Bookkeeping Corporate to send you a franchisee of 85 brands. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get some clients, but
Right.
you're definitely not gonna become super successful. You need to go and do the old school, networking, meeting the people, developing the relationship. Um, if a franchisee has a relationship with two, three, four CPA firms in the area and they're doing a good job, they're gonna be golden. I mean, this 2 to 4 CPA firms of a good size can feed you more clients than one can probably, successfully handle.
Right.
But you have to go and develop it, and nobody's going to believe you when they see you one time. I remember when we got involved with International Franchise Association and we went to the first IFA. I mean, people were just passing the booth and like, okay, books keeping, okay, fine.
Mhm.
And then I think we got like one franchisor out of it, okay. And then the next year we came back. And all of a sudden, they're like, oh, we saw these people last time, so we're going to stop by. And then we got more. And then now we've been doing it 6 or 7 years without missing one. So now we have a line of people to talk to us because they know we are going to be coming back every year. We are there to stay. And I
Right.
see a lot of my competition doing bookkeeping. They show up at the IFA, they have a booth, they have zero traction the first year, and they leave. And then the new ones come in, and I can guarantee you then they're not going to be back next year for the same reason. So you just have to be persistent. People have to know you're not going anywhere. You're going to be there tomorrow.
Sure. And that's the lesson. That's a lesson for your franchisees too on just how to operate any business.
Absolutely.
You
It
have to
takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah. So what would you say is like one of the biggest piece of advice that you give to people that are considering joining your brand as a franchisee?
Just trust the process, okay? And just, go have fun. And, we're actually very big about culture,
Hmm.
and we are making sure that there is, we are in the same line of thinking before somebody comes on board. Because, our hashtag is cool bean counters, okay? Bookkeeping is a very boring process. So, like, there are a lot of companies out there that do it the old way. I mean, come on, what's sexy about bookkeeping? It's
Right.
like, oh my God, the numbers, money in, money out. It's boring. So we're trying to bring a new life to one of the very oldest profession, arguably the oldest.
Right.
Okay, that's why we are really big on the culture. We believe our clients are cool. We believe our employees are cooler, and we believe our franchisees are the coolest.
Mhm.
So we definitely trying to give that to community of our franchisees and employees for that
Right.
matter. So the piece of advice, just trust the process, just go with the flow and go have fun.
Mm.
Okay. Yes, it's a business. You have to take it seriously, but you have to, work hard, play hard. When you are outside of work, you have to concentrate on your family, on your hobbies, and live life, in fullest.
Absolutely. Yep. Life is about fulfillment, right?
100%.
Yeah. What I'm curious on what you think as your franchise brand, as the system grows, what percentage would you say you think of franchisees are going to want to do the bookkeeping services in-house within their own franchise versus ask you, Max, I want your team to do the bookkeeping for us? Where do you see this company going?
Are you talking about like our franchisees?
Yeah. So let's say I'm a franchisee. I
Mhm,
have the choice, right? I could either do the bookkeeping service myself, actually do the actual work, or
mhm.
I can refer the work to you, right?
So it's not necessarily referring the work to us. We just help to get the staff for our franchisees. So we find the employees, we train them bookkeeping way, and
Okay.
then we let our franchisees to interview a couple of them and say, you know what, I like this person. And this person de facto becomes an employee of a franchisee, working only for the franchisee. Yet we're
Okay.
paying the benefits, we're providing the office, we're providing, supervisor, and we're making sure that all of them are in the same room with other bookkeeping employees. So if they
Mhm.
have a question, instead of going to a franchisee, hey, how do you do that? They'll ask around. And most likely they will get the answer within their own community. So even though a franchisee can have one employee, there's going to be 10 of co-workers right next to each other, okay,
Okay.
wearing the same t-shirts and getting the same training as everybody else. So that's what we provide. We're not really doing the work on the behalf of franchisees. First of all, that would be a co-employment issue, which we don't want to even go there. And second of all, that's not the business model that we have. So our franchisees have three options. They can do the work themselves, they can hire somebody locally
Hmm.
or anywhere in the United States, or they can have us to help them to source the staff. So all of these options are valid, but I do tell my franchisees, if you're planning to do work yourself forever, then probably you're not a good match, because don't buy yourself a job.
Right.
You know, buy yourself a business. The job, you cannot sell your own job to somebody else,
Mhm.
okay? You only can get promoted if you can replace yourself. If you cannot do that, there is no way you can move to the next level. So that's why please don't buy the job. Yes, I would like to take your franchise fees. Yes, I would like to take your royalties, but this is not the right choice for you. And you're not gonna be happy. And if you're not gonna be happy, then ultimately, we're not gonna be happy.
Right, right. So, okay, so going back to, you clarified that. Do you see more franchisees using the service that you're providing of help sourcing employees, or do you think more are going to do it in house? Like, where do you think the split's
It,
going
it
to
it
be?
it 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 really depends. I think like this CPA firm that hopefully gonna sign the agreement in the next few days. I mean, their main reason they're buying because they want to have access to the
Hmm.
employees. Okay, they're like, we don't want the training, and honestly, I know they don't need it. They can train us
Right.
because these guys, they've been CPAs for, 20 years. So they know more of accounting than I ever wanted to know. Okay.
Right.
But they just don't know how to scale because it's very hard to find employees. It's very hard to train. And then if an employee leaves, what do you do that?
Hmm.
So I think once we start getting more and more of that type of franchisees, our like employee providing model becomes more and more successful. For somebody who starts small, I see different franchisees doing differently. Some are hiring locally because they want to have somebody in the office they can talk to, and somebody going with the staffing model.
Okay, cool. You've been around, although you franchised in 2021, you've been around the franchise community for quite a while before then. Is there a piece of memorable advice that you received that has kind of influenced you today?
Ask for help. Okay, ask for help. Reach out to more experienced franchisors. Listen to their stories. I mean, you and me, we met at the Springboard, and then we saw each other at the Emerging Franchisor Conference in New Orleans. I mean, I learned more from this conference than I learned from anywhere else because I'm going at the round table and listening to people like you, like other experienced franchisors, and like, hey, how did you do that? Okay, how did you? I mean, we all have very similar challenges. I mean,
Sure.
yes, in a different scale, but you know, I'm sure you can tell a lot of war stories and the mistakes you made, even though maybe you haven't made any.
Oh
But
gosh,
you
no.
would be the first one I know.
Oh no, Lord, no. I made a ton of them.
So I'd rather, like they saying what's the difference between smart person and wise person. So smart person learns from their own mistakes and wise person learning from somebody else's mistakes. So I want to
Yes.
be wise. I want to learn from your mistakes. I want to learn from other mistakes. And then I want to give back to the community and I want other people to learn from my mistakes. So that would be my biggest piece of advice to emerging franchisors. Just listen to people out there. There are a lot of franchisors are ready to help. Just,
Hmm.
ask. If you don't ask, you're not going to get.
Sweet. Max, I typically finish with the tip jar because the franchise community is so generous, which you came right out early and said that, doesn't matter for your competitors, you share information. We've seen that time and time again. If I was an entrepreneur looking to franchise my concept though, is there a piece of advice though you'd give me?
Do your research before you start, okay? There are a lot of providers out there that provide different type of services from legal to marketing to business planning. Some are definitely worth it, and some you can probably do it yourself and you don't need to spend the money. So probably would not use some of the people I used, but I definitely the other half was priceless for what we've done. So do the research, ask around, ask for second opinion, and they make your own decision. And the most importantly, trust your gut.
Mm.
Like just yes, franchising is sexy, but franchising is actually also a lot of work. And it's actually a big investment. So you do need to understand that going in and not just realize 6 months later, oh shoot, I wish I knew that. I wish I had enough money because I've read statistics somewhere. A lot of franchisors are not renewing their FTD, after year one, just
Mm-hmm.
because they're just not making it. So before you go and spend $100,000 in legal and everything else, just do the research and see if franchising is good for you. Okay. Also have a proof of model, have a corporate unit, preferably more than one, and then just learn from it, make all the possible mistakes, and only then take it to the next level.
Max, that is fantastic advice. Thank you so much. One last thing, if someone was interested in learning more about bookkeeping, how can they get more info?
So BooXKeepingFranchise.com, and of course, it's spelled BOOXKEEPING. Bookkeeping is an X, and BooXKeepingFranchise.com. They can look us up. They can look me, Max Emma, on LinkedIn. We are definitely not hiding. We are readily available. So we would love to talk to anybody, whether they want to buy a bookkeeping franchise or they are an emerging franchisor who might need help with their bookkeeping.
Totally. Max, Emma, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's great seeing you again, Max.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Take care. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.